Almost a year on from Auckland's multi-billion-dollar Great Flood, the council is signalling a crackdown on building consents for hazardous areas.
It comes as new data reveals that since the anniversary weekend event, the council has issued 1,400 building consents for houses to be constructed on floodplains. Nick Trubridge has the story.
Don't build or buy in places like this. No-brainer, right? Well, in Auckland, plenty of people are. Council data reveals 1,873 houses have been approved in areas with known hazards since the deadly anniversary floods. 1,415 dwellings have been consented in floodplains.
The way that we consent in floodplains is that mostly the applicant has to prove that they can make the structure safe, that it might be above the flood level, or they have other mitigations around stormwater. If people are wanting us to prevent that building in a floodplain, it's far more complex. We can't, under the Building Act or the RMA, just ban or prohibit building in those areas.
This street in Henderson was one of the worst hit during January's floods. Cars were literally picked up and swept down the road, and the water was up to people's necks. We've come back here to see what it looks like now, and one of the first things you notice, new homes have been built here. But Richard Hills, who chairs Council's Planning Committee, says it will be looking at changes to reduce building in floodplains. Mitigations or not, some areas could be out of bounds.
It does seem sort of outrageous that you're seeing develop in some of these areas. We are looking to prevent it in some areas that are newly developed, but it's hard to remove the development rights of current property owners.
Mayor Wayne Brown appeared exasperated as Newshub read out floodplain consents during an interview this afternoon. He says council needs greater control when it comes to consenting.
It's disappointing to find we're adding to it, and one of the things we're talking to the government about is to have the ability to say no and mean no.
Even with supposed mitigations against flooding, Brown said the anniversary floods showed they were futile in some West Auckland suburbs. I went
outside and looked at that, and I could see those houses were actually had their floor levels below the road gutter level. Even in Kaitaia, you've not been able to do that.
He says Auckland Council simply doesn't have the control it needs to stop homes being built in these areas.
Well, Nick's with us now. Kia ora, Nick. So people can build in these areas, but can they get insurance?
Yeah, good evening, Mike. Well, the short answer is yes, they can. The Insurance Council told me this afternoon that most insurance companies will insure for a 1 in 100 year event. The question, of course, is what if the event is bigger? We know that the event in January was certainly unprecedented, to use that word once again, and bigger than anyone expected, bigger than 1 in 100 years. So the advice from the Insurance Council really is to think about where you are building. Are you setting yourself up for a disaster down the track? We've also heard this afternoon from Simon Watts. He's the new Climate Change Minister in the new government, the new man in the hot seat. He says the government is working on what he calls a national adaptation framework. That'll include councils, it'll include iwi, insurers will be involved, banks will be involved, and they will be working on how to deal with some of the challenges we've just identified in that story. Wayne Brown will certainly be happy about that. He's looked for more engagement with Wellington when it comes to consenting and where we can and can't build. Now, just a quick note, obviously tomorrow is 1 year since that event. The 27th of January was when the rain kept coming in Auckland and didn't stop, and it caused billions of dollars of damage. 4 lives were lost. We were in one of the worst areas in this story. We will be back there tomorrow talking to some of the people who are leading the rebuild out west. But you've got to say, shocking to be back out there, and the first thing you notice, new houses right inside the danger zone. Mike.
Nick, tēnā koe.